We welcome Jim Nagy. He's back home from the Combine in Indianapolis. He's the executive director of the Senior Bowl. Went to watch some of his guys from the Senior Bowl perform at the Combine. I would imagine reconnect with your friends in the scouting community from your time there. Jim, what was the scene like when Xavier Worthy broke the Combine all-time 40 record?
Andy, it was really cool. They started adding fans at the Combine. I'm guessing, I'm taking a guess, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, and I think it was always tied into like the NFL Visa partnership. And they would keep them in this one little area, one little section of the Lucas Oil. And then this year they opened it up. Someone told me they were trying to get 25,000 people into the stadium. They really took in that whole entire end zone. And man, it added to it. It really added to the vibe. I think everyone, I think he ran 4.25 on his first run. So everyone knew that second one had a chance. He had a shot at it. So to see him finish and they flashed 4.22 on the jumbotrons in the stadium, the crowd went nuts. He's running around, players are congratulating him. Back in the day, I mean, at the Combine, you could hear a pin drop in the stadium, regardless of what was happening. There was no oohs and ahs. There was no claps. No one was doing anything. So to have the fans in there for that, it was awesome.
Well, and so you tweeted a picture of your stopwatch at 4.25. So was that the first run or was that the?
That was the first one. Yeah. So
you nailed that one. Like how? Okay. You're not working for a team anymore, but you're very much still in the scouting world. Like how important is it to have an accurate stopwatch thumb?
Well, you don't use your thumb; you use your trigger finger. That's rule number one. You're slower on the. Yeah, that's you can sniff a phony out by seeing who's timing with their thumb. So.
The real ones go with the trigger finger.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard. Those first couple of guys, I always feel bad for the first position group because everyone's kind of trying to calibrate. So it's important you're around a big group of people to start off with. Because you're gonna misfire here and there, but as you get, as you work into it, you get in a groove, if you will. But no, it is good. They stagger it every row of the Lucas Oil. I think at least back, before I took this job, they used to draw numbers when all the teams showed up at the Combine first and starting all the way down on the field. I want to say there's 4 or 5 teams at field level, and then it works up, through the stands and it's good you've got, usually every team has 2 or 3 guys on the 40, 1 guy recording, 2 guys timing, and then you've got the team in front of you, the team behind you. You really hope the team in front and behind you are some buddies from other teams. Then, if you don't feel like you got the play, or you can just turn on, would you guys get on that? And when someone runs as fast as Worthy did, everyone's asking that. Did you're showing each other the watches? Am I right here? 4.22, is that right? So no, it's cool. I'm right there. Our group, our Senior Bowl staff was right there on the 40, timing those things. And it was just cool to see the reaction of all the NFL guys. 4.21 is blazing, man. It's really fast.
Well, and what's so interesting about Xavier Worthy is we were talking about this before we started the show. John Ross was a nice player at Washington. He was the previous record holder, but probably should not have gone as high in the draft as he did. Darius Hayward-Bay at Maryland, another really fast 40, was a reach by Al Davis and the Raiders back then. But Xavier Worthy was an accomplished player on the field. Like you're not doubting, does this guy have the skill set to be good in the NFL?
No, a really good player. When I was at Texas back in August, and they had a bunch of guys in the Senior Bowl this year, and so we went out there to look, and it just happened to be timed up a day during our trip out to Texas where they were doing kind of a simulated scrimmage inside the stadium for a bunch of big NIL donors. And Worthy had 2 or 3 long touchdowns. A.D. Mitchell had a couple of big touchdowns in that scrimmage. It was fun. So yes, he can legit play. I mean, this guy was a fringe first rounder before the Combine and now running 4.21. Think about it this way. 4.41 is fast. If you've got a 4.41 corner starting on the outside, you feel good about that guy if you're an NFL team, that he can basically run with whoever he's trying to cover that week. 4.41 isn't covering 4.21. I mean, 2/10, that's like trying to cover, a 4.41 guy with a 4.61 guy. No
right.
team would feel good about sticking someone out to think about that. They're starting, the teams are starting with some corners in the league right now that are in the 4.5s. 0.3 of a second is a major discrepancy.
If you'd like to cover a gentleman like Xavier Worthy, a guy who played in your game might be a good candidate for that. Quinyon Mitchell, who was awesome during Senior Bowl week. He's the Toledo corner. He's very long, 6'1". He had a great combine, 4.33 in the 40 and 20 reps on the bench. But obviously you guys saw in Mobile probably what you needed to see from him.
He's checked every box, Andy. He's taken advantage of the full process as much as anyone could. Like you said, he had a great week here covering really good receivers. I mean, he was out there day in and day out with Roman Wilson from Michigan and Ricky Pearsall from Florida. Guys that blew up the combine as well. We could spend time talking about those guys here. But yeah, to see Q run like that, and now you think about this. Now, I think heading into Indy, most teams were in the place of Terrion Arnold from Alabama and Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo probably is the top two corners. And now Terrion Arnold ran 4.50, which isn't a bad time, but 4.33, you're talking about another difference of almost 0.2. That's significant for two players that were close. That's a big separator. And yet Terrion Arnold can go to Alabama Pro Day and have a chance to run a faster time. If I'm Quinyon Mitchell, I don't know if I run at the Toledo Pro Day. I show up and I do some stuff so that my teammates get some love, because if Quinyon Mitchell doesn't show up to Pro Day, his buddies probably don't have as many scouts there. But yeah, I mean, I think that probably locked Quinyon Mitchell in as the top corner in the draft.
So another guy I really enjoyed getting to know at the Senior Bowl was Braden Fiske from Florida State, D tackle who'd played 4 years at Western Michigan, transfers to Florida State for that last year. And, the interview we did with him down there, like, you just love this guy when you talk to him. And I'm sure you guys, getting to know him that week felt the same way. But then to see him put it all together in the drills, in the 40, it felt like another one that just, this is going to just take off like a rocket ship for him.
Yeah, he's taken advantage of the process. Similar, like I said, with Quinyon Mitchell. I think probably at the start of this thing, a little over a month ago before Mobile, most teams probably had Braden Fiske in the 4th round. And, maybe they're thinking we could maybe take him with a compensatory 3rd round pick, keep our fingers crossed. I don't think he gets out of the 2nd round, probably doesn't get out of the top 50 picks, because it's not just the physical stuff. We've seen that. I mean, he ran 4.76 at 292 pounds. And more so, like what he looked like in the drills, he looked like a jumbo linebacker. He looked like, I mean, compared to all the other D linemen, the twitch, the suddenness and the change of direction, the burst, just the closing burst. He moved like a smaller man. He looked different than all those other guys. I mean, I would say probably Byron Murphy from Texas was the closest thing to him movement wise. And he was almost unblockable down here in Mobile. So, and you're getting a guy that's really a tempo setter, tone setter in that D line room and probably for your whole defense. And that was the thing coming into Mobile. He called the office. I shared this story on the Senior Bowl recap show that I did with Dan Jeremiah for the NFL Network. He called the office thanking for the invite, which he didn't have to do. Not a lot of guys do. I certainly don't expect that. And I told him, like, man, I haven't seen you practice yet, but if you show up here in Mobile and you practice with the intensity and the effort that you do on tape, on the game tape, I'm like, you're going to have a phenomenal week. And he did that, and then it's been well publicized. We flipped him on the morning of the game and put him on the other team because we were having some roster attrition. It was like the first roster move in the history of the Senior Bowl. He made history that way. So he has, in a 5-6 week span, he has completely changed the narrative from, an early day 3 guy to a guy that's, in the top 50 conversation.
Now, he's one of those guys who in the meetings with the team personnel is going to blow them away, is going to wow them. Having been in those rooms at the combine, how much more valuable is that part of it than the 40 time or the bench press?
Well, I think it's really valuable because, again, the tape, you can always go back to the tape. And even with the Senior Bowl, and as important as the one-on-one drills and a lot of the stuff we do here,
what I tell people about the pre-draft process is, you think about it, it's really a short period of time from Senior Bowl, like early February until the end of April, to get to know these guys. You know this. I mean, you've been at schools with some of these scouts. I mean, they go in there and they talk to everybody in the building. They're in there. If you're at Florida State, the Southeast scouts were probably through Tallahassee 3 times in the fall, talking to everybody they could talk to. But to sit across from Braden and hear his story from him, and really try to get to know him, that's the impactful stuff. That's where, when you're scouts and you're hearing his story and where he came from in Michigan City, Indiana, blue collar area by Gary, Indiana, going to Western Michigan, betting on himself, like going to Florida State. That's the stuff the teams are going to grab onto. And that's the stuff when you get into April and you're having those final meetings about, where do we need to take this guy, right? Like, they're all trying to get him as late as they can possibly get him. Where do we have to take this guy to get him? You keep going back to that stuff. Guys, he's going to change our room. He's going to change our defense. He's going to change the effort we play with. Like, those things are going to knock him up even beyond the physical talent. And now we've seen on the field here in Mobile and on the field at Lucas Oil, the physical talent is all there. And then you start talking about what he does from a makeup perspective to make other people around him better. I mean, shoot, man, that's why even if someone took him in the late first round at this point, I wouldn't put it past some teams. Some teams have to see what the impact he's going to have on our overall group. It's going to be worth it. So we'll see where it ends up.
You mentioned Roman Wilson and Ricky Pearsall earlier, guys that receivers that kind of showed out like you expected them to. How deep is this class? Because Brian Thomas was one of the headliners, obviously, and he was a great receiver at LSU as well. But he tested really well. How far can you go down into the draft and still get a guy who's going to contribute at receiver next year? It feels like you got some options there.
Well, if you want to play that game, Andy, I get the question. I mean, think about this. The Rams got Puka Nacua in the 5th round last year.
That's right. Another Senior Bowl guy.
Yeah. So, and they hit big on Puka. Puka was a great fit. He and Matthew Stafford clicked from the get-go. But I really do think, like, 4th round, you're getting guys that are going to be able to step on the field and contribute right away. I mean, everyone's playing 3 wides, 4 wides. Can you get a guy that can come in and do that in the 4th round of this draft? I think you probably can. Those names and everyone's testing well. We talked about Xavier Worthy, just breaks the combine record, so that helps him. Brian Thomas ran like we thought he was going to run. The LSU strength staff went on and on and on when I was there in August about how he would test, and he did that. I'm sure Neighbors is going to test well. So all these guys that we thought were going to test well in Indy, showed up and performed. A lot of these guys we thought, we're going to come to the Senior Bowl, the Pearsalls, the Roman Wilsons, the Malachi Corleys from Western Kentucky. Those guys all came here and did well. So, even a guy like, people have talked about Tez Walker since the Senior Bowl. Yes, he dropped some balls here in Mobile, but he also got deep. Every time he wanted to get deep, he got deep. Yeah. And then he goes to the combine and runs 4.38. He vertical jumps 40+ inches. He broad jumps 11.4. So now Tez Walker's back, and you know what? And he caught the ball better in drills. Things kind of snowballed him here in Mobile, but now he's back in that, top 50 conversation where he probably belongs. So it is deep, man. You don't have to spend a 1st-round pick on a wide receiver on a guy that can come in and play right away. And last year's draft with Rashee Rice and Jaden Reed and all these guys in the second round, like, if you have equal needs at this point, probably take the other position and then circle back and get yourself a wide out.
Well, I wanted to ask you about Keon Coleman specifically, because he ran a 40 that was considered a disappointing time, but the tape's really good. So in that situation, if you are recommending to your front office what to do as a scout, how do you reconcile those things?
Well, I would say when it comes to Keon, like, most scouts knew that he wasn't going to run a great time. And when I called his agent to talk about getting him here to Mobile, that was the pitch, was like, I don't think he's going to run fast. He's a really good football player. So have him come here to Mobile and, like, lean into the strengths, have him come here and interview and do what he does on the field. And that's, get open and make plays. It's hard to find 6'3" playmakers, and he can do that. You don't see many guys his size that can return punts, right? Like, and that's just
right.
You don't. I mean, most of those guys are 5'9", 5'10". He's 6'3", 6'4", returning punts for Florida State. So, so I don't think it was a surprise. I don't think the 4.62 was a surprise to teams. Now, what you're going to want to do, probably just go back to the tape and, okay, is this showing up? You know, do we see a lack of juice that's going to limit him when he gets to the next level? Because the ball skills are all there. Some of the run after catch, the change of direction, you know, kind of the slinkiness with the ball in his hands. He has that, but you just got to, like, lack of explosiveness doesn't show up, and teams will do that. But he's another really good player in this draft.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like that's almost guaranteeing somebody's going to get a bargain when that happens. But I did want to ask about one of my other favorite guys that I met in Mobile, and he didn't run exactly as fast in the 40 as he thought he would, but it was pretty close. Was Dylan Laube from New Hampshire? So 4.54 in the 40, which is probably good enough. And I'm so excited about this guy, but his change of direction stuff was awesome. So where do you think he's going to wind up come April?
Yeah, he was off the charts. Back to Coleman real quick. Like, he's a perfect example of, if you're convicted about the football player off his tape, you kind of hope he ran slow. You know, like, right,
because you're going to get him now.
Let everyone else get caught up in the 40 time. We're just going to sit back and let this guy fall to us. So some teams do that. Dylan didn't. I mean, 4.54 is absolutely fine for a running back. That is speed. Top end speed is the most overrated thing at the running back position. You're looking more for short bursts than long speed at that spot. And like you said, all the other stuff, the change of direction stuff, the jumps, his vertical and broad were way up there. So, and that's what correlates to the short burst, is the explosive jump. So yeah, I thought he did a really nice job. And most importantly, he looked really good in the on-field pass game drills. They also worked him at wide receiver. They had him run some wide receiver routes in addition to the running back routes. And again, if you're buying into Dylan, that's what you're buying. He is game ready, NFL ready to come in and contribute in the passing game. Everybody I spoke to here in Mobile and at the Combine, I talked to some guys about him in Indy. It's about the passing game. You know, as a runner, yeah. I mean, but there's a lot of guys in this draft that can run the ball. There's not a lot of guys that can contribute and bring versatility in the pass game that he can.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It feels like that's more what you're looking for in a back now. I don't know if there are any first-round backs in this draft. Jahmyr Gibbs last year was a first-round back, probably because of what he can do in both areas, and was very good for the Lions. So, but yeah, I would think that's almost a requirement at this point, because you can find good running backs deep in the draft.
Yeah, if you're going to take one up high, they certainly have to help in the, be a 3-down player. Because the new coaches these days, you're tipping your hand with some of these guys when you put them in the game. So yeah, and I agree with you. I don't think there's going to be a first-round guy in this draft. I think that you're going to be looking at, like, Marshawn Lloyd from USC, Trey Benson from Florida State. Off the top of my head, like Jalen Wright from Tennessee had a really
he had a good 40 time.
Yeah, he was supposed to be coming here to the Senior Bowl and then missed because of an injury, but we thought he was going to run fast based off his high school track stuff, and yeah, he blew it out.
So I are already probably working on next year's Senior Bowl roster. How excited are you to get around to some spring practices?
We are working on it. I think we're about 20 Power Fives in right now, so the board is slowly being built, which is cool. I mean, I usually hang on with the current draft class and do some media stuff around those guys until we get to the draft. But I'm kind of itching for a new group of guys. And the good thing is, a lot of players. I mean, I don't know what that exact number is. We'll have to go back and tally it up. There's a number of guys that we sent invites to this year that went back to school, for some pretty big NIL money. So we're starting off with a group of players that we already know we would be comfortable with in next year's game. But yeah, I'm excited for the spring. We'll get out to some pro days and get back on campus and reconnect with some coaches and start putting, get some background information, figure out who's going to test well. That's part of it. Every pro day we go to, we get with the strength coach and say, okay, a year from now, who's going to be showing out here at Combine and Pro Day? And so we got a heads up on that. So it's going to be fun. Get to a couple spring games and and get her cranked up for 2025.
Cannot wait. Hopefully I will bump into you as I hit the road for spring practice as well. Jim, thank you so much.
Yeah, Andy, it's great seeing you, man. And hopefully I'll see you on the road.
Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.